Coaches, today on the channel we're going to be talking about something I thought I would never have to talk about here on Airraidnation, but today we're going to talk about the NCAA Transfer Portal. Stay tuned. All right, coaches, welcome back to Airraidnation. This is Coach Coltharp again. And like the teaser said, man, today we're going to talk about the NCAA Transfer Portal, which is something I never thought I would have to talk about. But one of my kids who was at a Division I school just decided to enter the portal. And, you know, without going into specifics as to why he did that, I just thought I needed to understand, you know, the portal itself so I could help guide him, or not necessarily guide him, but aid him in his choice and help him, you know, find a place that he's more comfortable with being with. I mean, so look, you know, we've been talking so much about becoming a head football coach and what is important. And if you really want to join in on our clinics Sunday night, man, I'll put the link in the description down there. Use the promo code YouTube and you get 15% off your intro. But, you know, we got guys that have got they got seven state championship appearances, dozens of conference championships, guys who've had the #1 player in the country, guys who've had players who have been drafted, guys who have had several really, really good jobs, who are coming in and talking about, you know, how to find that job and all the things that you need to know to be a head coach that you really don't think that you really need to know. And this was one of them. Like, you know, so if these are the kind of videos you want to see, man, and if this is the kind of information that you want to put in your locker, I would really appreciate if you dropped a like on the video, man. If we could get 100 likes on the video this week, man, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, man, please do. We're about a couple of hundred of you guys away from getting to seven grand, which just blows my mind that 7,000 people care about my content, man. So I'm trying my best to put stuff out there that you guys can use daily. And, you know, all that being said, man, let's jump in the video and let's talk a little bit about the transfer portal and how I think it's hurting or helping high school football. All right, guys, so, like, here's the meat of the video, and I just wanted to share with you guys some of the research that I did because I had absolutely no knowledge other than what we see on TV about what the transfer portal is and how it actually works. So I went out there, you know, this stuff happened to me Monday. You know, my kid texted me and said, hey, coach, man, I'm going to the portal, and, you know, and we had a discussion as to why he was going into the portal, and it was just, okay, well, now what is the portal? So I went and started looking, and so I said, what is the transfer portal exactly? And so I wanted to kind of share with you guys what I learned and what I learned. And I will say this, I spent a year coaching in college. A lot of you guys know that. And we used to bring JUCO guys in and talking to compliance people and everything, stuff like that. And it was crazy the amount of stuff that they had to do back then in 2014. So what they did is they came up with this portal, and it's basically a simplification of the process. All the stuff goes into one place. School compliance people can pull the stuff from one spot, look at it. Players can do different things, and it's pretty interesting how that is. But only Division I schools are required to use the portal. Division II schools are not. Division III schools are not. So if you got a kid at a lower level, they're going to have to go through that long form process more than likely, which is no fun. I can tell you from some experience. You know, and basically when a kid comes to the school and says, hey, look, I want to go in the portal, they have 2 days to do it. And so I learned that pretty quick too, which I thought was interesting. So, you know, basically, what are some of the pros of the portal? Like, you know, a lot of us are saying, hey, man, the portal is so great for kids. You know, it's this, that, gives them freedom. And so I thought, like, you know, what is it? Obviously, it simplifies the process for the kid. The kid goes to the school, says, hey, I want to jump in the portal. He fills out a little form. He can put his email address and email address for contact information. And it allows a kid to be able to put himself out there and say, hey, I want to go somewhere else, you know, for whatever those reasons are, whether it's, you know, his playing time, his family, illness, you know, homesick, you know, there's all kind of different reasons kids go into the portal. So, but it gives you know, back in the day, they'd have to say, hey, coach, I don't really want to be here anymore. And then, you know, we would try to call people, and it made it really, really hard. It was really time consuming. And so, you know, the other thing that they've changed, you know, back, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, a school could say, hey, yeah, you can transfer all you want, but you can't go anywhere in the conference. You can't go anywhere to anybody in the top 25, you know, Schools can't do that anymore. So, you know, the conferences have agreed that you can't place limitations on where kids can transfer to. You get one free you know, transfer anywhere you want to go without penalty. So you can transfer, you know, from school A to school B and be able to play at school B as long as the waiver is approved. You still have to ask for a transfer waiver as to why you want to leave, and most of them are approved, some of them aren't. But the one thing I did learn is the NCAA does it on a case by case basis, so it's interesting to see how that works. The other cool thing about the portal that I learned is that coaches can actually set up a watch list. You can put kids' names in the portal. I was recruiting Johnny. I lost Johnny, but I'm gonna put Johnny on our watch list. So if he ever enters the portal, I'm gonna get a notification right away, so I can get in touch with Johnny, because we really hate that we missed him. The other cool thing is that they make players actually do can't speak on the video, a division specific transfer education seminar. So they have to go in and understand what they're getting into, understand what the rules are, before they can do that. So that's pretty cool too. That way kids don't, get caught, they don't get Will Smithed when they find out, oh, this really wasn't what I thought it was. And so like I said, it does provide that one penalty-free transfer opportunity. So these were things that I learned, that I thought that were kind of pros to the portal, that kind of benefit the student athlete. So, like, what are some of the cons, though? Like, there are some really, really big negatives. And if you don't follow Football Scoop, you need to follow Football Scoop. Go to footballscoop.com. There's all kind of good coaching information on there, man. I've been looking at that website for years. But they just had an article on there. And I actually talked to the guy that wrote the article on Twitter. We DM'd back and forth for a few minutes because I told him I wanted to use some of his information. He was like, yeah, Coach, that's cool. But there was a great article on Football Scoop this week about the portal. And one of the big things that they talked about was that, I think it's like 40 to 50% of the kids that enter the portal don't end up going to the same level that they started. So, very few of them, go FBS to FBS. It's a 50-50 crapshoot. So it's not always, hey, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to end up at Notre Dame, or I'm going to end up at Carolina or Tennessee or USC or Washington State or Mississippi State or, Florida State. Some of those guys go Division II. And I will say this, my kid, he's got 4 years of eligibility left. He ended up, he's getting DM'd like crazy from JUCOs. A lot of JUCOs are DMing him saying, hey man, why don't you just come over here? You can and do this and do that. And he's academically sound, so I don't know that would be the best decision for him, but ultimately it's his decision to make. But one of the first cons, you still have to apply for that waiver, and I think there's like 11 reasons that committee looks at, but they can still deny that waiver request. And so you could go into the portal, the NCAA can say, well, I'm sorry, man, we're not going to approve your waiver, and then that kid is kind of stuck. And we'll talk about why we say they're stuck in a second. But a lot of times these kids, when they go in the portal, they have the support of the university that they're leaving, for whatever reason, especially if it's a playing time issue. I talked to a college coach the other day, and we talked about him, and he had a kid in the portal. He said, listen, man, I met with the kid at the end of spring ball, and I said, look, we love you. I want you to stay here, but you've been beat out by everybody in the room, and you're not going to play. And so the kid decided to go into the portal. He said, but, we approached it like that. We're really honest with our kids, about how this was going to happen. And so that was interesting to hear from him, how he handled it versus how some of the other coaches that I know handle portal stuff. And, I've learned a lot this week, I can tell you that. And here's the other thing. You can't legally contact other coaches without being in the portal. So, my kid couldn't text one of the other schools that was recruiting him and say, hey, listen, I'm fixing to jump in this portal. Would you guys be interested? If you're interested, I'm going to go in the portal. If not, then I'm going to stay where I'm at. You can't do that. Now, one of the benefits that he had with me is the minute he told me he was going in the portal, and he was already legit when he talked to me, but I started contacting coaches for him. Obviously people were jumping in his DMs on Twitter and stuff like that, but, I talked to, 6 D1 coaches within 2 hours of him going in the portal and gave him contact information and stuff like that. So, on the other side of that, that's between him and his parents and those coaches. But, I did reach out to some guys for him to try to give him a leg up on the process. But here's the bad thing about that waiver deal. And this is the one thing that I didn't understand and I didn't know, is that when that kid jumps in that portal, the university that he's at is no longer bound to his national letter of intent. So if he decides to come back out of the portal and say, coach, I was just playing, I want to stay, that university does not have to put him back on scholarship. That university does not have to guarantee him a spot on the team. And so that's a risk that these kids are taking, that some of these kids, what's the old saying, testing the waters. You want to test those waters. You want to get out there and see if anybody's interested. And then maybe if you don't get the offers that you want, or maybe the school that you wanted didn't call you, and you're like, well, I really changed my mind. I really want to stay here. That you can go back and tell them, say, hey, look, I don't want to be in the portal no more. Okay, they'll pull you out of the portal, but then they can look at you and say, hey, bud, you have to be a walk-on. Now we're gonna reduce your scholarship. We're not gonna give you this. We're not gonna give you that. Which is a huge risk for a kid to take. So that was one of the things I didn't I didn't know about. I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, if you tell me you don't want to be here anymore, I don't have to, I don't have to be committed to you either. But it was just something that I didn't know. And like I said, it's just they can take that back. The other thing of it is that if you decide to go into the portal in February, at the end of that semester, the university doesn't have to put you on scholarship anymore. So your aid ends at the end of that semester. So if you go into the portal in December, you can't go back to school in January for free. They're not going to hold you there for another semester or whatever and make that happen. So that's that's one of those cons of the portal that kind of like mess with it. So as I did this research, man, I started thinking, is this really bad for high schools? Like all of us know that people like Deion Sanders are saying, yo, we're going to live in the portal and recruiting. They're just bringing guys in, especially at that FCS level, that 1AA, old school 1AA schools. They're going to live in that portal. They're going to go get these D1 guys who drop down. That 50% of guys that go into the portal that don't end up going to another FBS school, they're going to say, hey, well, why don't you come down to Jackson State or come down to Western Carolina or Gardner Webb or one of these Furman's type places. These FCS schools. So, Deion's saying that stuff. So, how does that make you feel as a high school coach when, Deion's saying they're going to live in the portal and then Jackson State shows up at your school? Are they really going to recruit your kid? And I would say, yeah. I mean, they're not going to go on the road and go look at guys and say, but I think for them, their right nows are going to come from the portal and JUCOs. And that's always been kind of the lower level way to thinking. And so here's what I talked to that guy that wrote the article on Football Scoop, and I said, well, what do you think about this thing with high schools? Why is the portal going to hurt high schools so much? And here's kind of what he mentioned to me, and I didn't think about it like this, but this makes perfect sense. The reason why schools love portal guys so much is they've already used their one-time exemption to transfer. So they're less likely to come in and say, I'm second team, I don't want to be here anymore, and then transfer somewhere else because now they have to sit out. And so that makes perfect sense to me. And I will tell you this, I've got some big time kids, that I've had over the years, and we got a couple of guys right now that I think can play at the next level with us here at Hopton. And, I'm contacting coaches and texting coaches and all that stuff, man. And all these guys are out on the road, and it's hard to get them to answer a lot of times because they got so much stuff going on. When my kid hit the portal, I texted 6 D1 coaches about him, and within 2 hours, I had either talked to him on the phone or they had texted me back. And I think it goes back to what we were just talking about with that one-time transfer exemption. This kid has already been a D1 guy, but it was just amazing how, guys were calling me, we were talking on the phone, and we were transferring information and doing all this stuff. But, if I texted those same guys and say, hey, look, man, I got a big-time inside linebacker, a big-time outside linebacker or whatever, I think you really should look at them. I might get a text back tomorrow or late in the evening, say, yo, coach, send me their huddle, that kind of stuff. But, this was, hey, do you got contact information, what's his name, boom, 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 boom. And, and I had guys texting me talking about, yo, we need this, that position really bad right now. Give me his information, blah, 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 blah. So, high school signings are decreasing. You look more and more and more at the number of high school guys these D1 guys are bringing in, and I think the push has been for the NCAA to say, listen, we're going to give, say, 5 more scholarships a year to Power 5 or Group of 5 schools and those 5 scholarships have to be used on high school kids. Because it really is, the numbers are going down. If you got 25 scholarships and you're using 8 of them on portal guys, then what are you going to do with, that's 8 high school kids that don't get signed. And eventually, the economics of it is you're going to run out of kids, because, if you're not adding fresh kids and you're just using guys that have already signed somewhere, then the numbers are going to go down. So I think that's one of the big interesting things that may or may not happen. In the comments down below, tell me what you think. So how do we help our kids get recruited during this process, man? That's the big question. What are you guys doing in recruiting? What are some of your strategies and thoughts? I know a lot of guys are using these recruiting services. I've never been a big fan of those. I think a lot of them take advantage of kids and families, and unfortunately that gives a bad rap to the recruiting services that are doing right. So if you know a good one that you're using, that you want to share with some of the coaches, man, put it down in the comments below. Coaches, man, thanks for joining me today in today's video, man. I know it was a lot of, crazy information that I normally don't put on the channel, but it was something I really wanted to talk to you guys about because it was something that I didn't know. And we've been talking about what it takes to be a head football coach. And one of those things is when your kids go away, they're still your kids. So you have to look out for them. And so you have to be well informed about all the situations that they may or may not face. And this was one that I wasn't informed of. So I wanted to go out and learn it. And when I learned it, I wanted to share it with you, man. And if you want to learn more about what it takes to be a head football coach, man, join us Sunday night, May 1st for our first annual Head Football Coaching Academy, man. Got some great guys coming on. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, man. It's going to be well worth it. You get a free copy of the clinic over on CoachTube. So, hey, look down in the description. Use promo code YouTube for 15% off. And as always, spin it to win.